So I will start with a short introduction, probably. And then we can go with the first question that I will just display so that I will remember. You have the microphone, and I will give you the microphone for now.
Okay. Who am I? So my name is Julie Watson, and I have a software company based in Montreal, a software company that helps print manufacturing companies automate their workflow, and we have customers around the world. And also, I've launched the Canadian chapter for Women in Tech. So Women in Tech Global is actually a global organization, and it's present in 60 different countries. And since last year, now also present in Canada. And we have a lot of great things happening. And if I could quickly mention that we have an event coming up, 7 for 7, 7 mentors for 7 mentees. And we actually have a couple of seats available for mentees. So if you're interested, please sign up. That's a very interesting effort. And besides this, I'm going to pass on the mic on to Hera. But Women in Tech, basically, quickly, our goal is to empower 5 million women from now until 2030. And we want to do this via building a community and helping each other out, networking. And so please follow us and participate in our events. Thank you.
My name is Hana Schonegger. I am a VFX lighting artist, and I lead Women in Animation Montreal. We are a global nonprofit. Our purpose is equity in the industries of VFX, visual effects, animation, and games. And very much like Julie, our intention is to create community and a network of women who can share their knowledge, their ideas, and opportunities with each other. And we also do a lot of very interesting stuff. We do networking events, panels, industry panels, workshops. We offer a scholarship every year. What else do we do? Animation screenings, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hi everyone, I'm Mariam, and I am the city lead for an organization called Women in AI. So we are a global organization. We're in 150 countries with 16,000 members, and I'm super proud to lead the chapter here in Montreal. We have 3 main pillars of the ways that we're trying to close the gender gap in AI as a field. So we work on inspiring, educating, and connecting our members through a lot of different workshops as well, symposiums, talks. We have a lot of in-person events, different types of networking ones. We'll be holding a group networking session in the next couple of months, so keep your eye out for that. And I also am a field engineer at a company called RCAI, where we focus on small language models and putting those into production for automating business processes.
Hello. I think nobody knows me. I'm Stefania, Pecore. I'm the lead of Women Techmakers Montreal, and what we do, you see here. But basically, we create connection, and we try to maximize the learning for our participants. We try to make sure that we can build and network with other communities, and making sure that our global mission can go whenever in the world. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be with you. And Diana?
Hola, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for bringing us together today. I'm Diana, originally from Colombia. I do wear that as a badge of honor, and I do bring my Latinidad everywhere that I go. So yeah, I've been in Canada since 2006, so nearly 20 years. I've been in tech since 2017. In my 9-to-5, I'm director of product operations, product analytics, and product enablement for an Ottawa-based SaaS company. But what I do that fills my cup, my happy cup, is I build community. So I'm co-founder of Somos Latinx in Tech. We are a community committed to helping Latinx thrive in tech. We create programs and also events to nurture networking, which is really, really important, sponsorship, mentorship, and learning. We want to see Latinx enter the industry and grow in the industry. Raise your hand if you're Latino or Latina. Oh. I love that, thank you. So prior to co-founding Somos Latinx in Tech, I was the chapter leader for Latinas in Tech Canada. Very similar mission. We wanted to create the space and provide the resources and support for Latinas to thrive in tech and reach those leadership roles. You know, this is a panel full of women leaders, and you know, the sad reality, and according to Statistics Canada, 23% of tech jobs are held by women, and of that, only 1% is held by Latina women. So there's a lot of work to do, but I'm really, really happy to be here and represent the work of how we can bring equality to the Latinx community. And yeah, about the X, Latinx is just a gender-neutral term. It replaces Latino or Latina.
I'm Diaz. I'm the CEO of the Global STEM Women. We are the hub of all the STEM initiatives, with how we like to call our initiative. There are so many different initiatives, how you can see now, but our question was, if there are so many, why we're still like this? What is missing? Then every year that we are launching a chapter in a country, we look for all the initiatives, all the STEM initiatives that are working for having more girls and women in STEM, and we realized a study, a report, is called the STEM Women Annual Report, and we present this data on the STEM Women Congress. Last year, we launched the first edition of the Congress in Canada. Stefania was there, and it was here in Montreal. This year, we will launch the second edition in Montreal too, and also we bring the first results of the first STEM Women Annual Report. And yes, we want to shake the ecosystem to show everyone what is missing or what are the things that needs more help in our terms of volunteers or public policies or industry policies, and do a real change.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mariam Bourassa. I am the release manager and SRE for the CMS at Radio-Canada. I'm realizing that's a whole lot of acronyms, but it is a mouthful to say otherwise. I am here for Femme en Tech, which is Radio-Canada's women network. And we're there to valorize really the women who work in the technology field, their leadership, and also their ambition. As you know, tech isn't, I know like women tech makers and a lot of these conferences, they're surrounded around the code, but technology really is across multiple fields. And at Radio-Canada, we can really see it from software like me to our Femme in Tech lead who works on the radio side, the technical radio side. And so that's what Femme en Tech at Radio-Canada is. It's really just getting all these technical women together to bring them to valorize what they do.
Woohoo! Okay, who wants to reply to the question, what does it mean for you to redefine the possible? Who wants to start? Shall I start? I start. I mean, so for me, redefine possible, I think it's something that is more on the personal side. Basically, we had a video on our social. It's mostly the same content. So basically, I want to make sure that we can redefine what does it mean also for us that we cannot do some stuff. So basically, we can do whatever we want. As I said this morning, we don't need to be perfect. We need to show up. That's it. So this is how I will say that for me it's redefine the possible, making sure that we can build the future in a way that is easy for us and we can grow step by step. We don't need to look in 10 years and be the expert of I don't know what.
I will go ahead. To follow you in what you said, when I was a kid, I was told I could do whatever I wanted. I come from a small town in Abitibi, and I mentioned technology, engineering, and my mom said, oh, honey, like, you should really go for more realistic goals in the city, you know, like secretary, you can go to be a teacher, you know, more roles that are more accessible. So I became a teacher. And now I'm in tech. And I think leaving that small town made me realize that what was possible there doesn't mean, or what was impossible there doesn't mean it's impossible everywhere. And if that's true from 2 different cities, then it's true for a lot of different things. So for me, redefining possible is, you know, sometimes the grass is greener on the other side, and it'll teach you something about why it's greener. Go check it out.
So for me, redefining possible is really about rewriting the narrative of who the Latinx professional is. So in Canada and in Quebec, Latinx contribute largely to food and beverage sectors, other manual sectors, which are important. However, it does limit the perception of our capabilities within a very valuable sector like technology. So to me, redefining possible is making sure that we are taking the right actions to allow Latinx to understand and value themselves properly, be able to negotiate their value, understand their value, negotiate what their value is, and grow to leadership roles within the tech sector. Because what we see right now is a general lack of representation in leadership roles, so how can we aspire to be if we don't see that example? It's really what got me to enter in the world of community building is I actually saw one executive at Amazon who was Latina with a very thick accent, and she was the boss. She was a VP, and I thought, I want to be like that one day. And it was incredible because she brought her full authentic self, not just her accent, but her duties as a woman. And at that time, she was a mother and she was juggling all kinds of things. And I thought, yeah, we can do this. So to me, it's redefining what Latinx can achieve professionally.
Okay, I can go next. So redefining possible for me, especially I think it's very true in my unconventional career path, is not being afraid to go down paths that you don't actually have a strong example for. I think to Deanna's point from earlier, figuring out what fills your cup early is really important, and then taking micro steps towards that throughout your career can be very fruitful. But if you don't have an example of that, or if you're like me and you were in an interdisciplinary field, you might not always have clear examples of how to get there. And your mentors, even if they are also women in the space, may not have an exact path for you either. So I've always tried to dare to take risks and do things that other people haven't done. And I would say it's paid off, and I would encourage others to do the same. So that's what it means to me.
So building on what was already said, I think what is possible and what is impossible is very much a personal thing. And for me, it's not comparing myself to other people, not looking at what they can do, but really focusing on taking small steps to improve myself as much as I can, and focusing on those things. Maybe at some point, if I look around, I realize, hey, I've actually broken some barriers. I've gotten to a point where I didn't expect to be. Maybe I've come a long way, and I can be proud of myself for that achievement. It maybe, hopefully, I'll also have made strides for in a more general sense, right, for the world. So that's, just do it personal.
For me, redefine the possible is my motto. In fact, when I heard someone that says, you cannot do that, is what? You know, that's my motivation, honestly. When someone says that, it's like, triggers me something that I'm gonna do that, you know? And I'm not gonna do it, I'm gonna nail it, I'm gonna do it perfect, no? That's something that we have to admit, that sometimes when you are not the majority and you have a lack of representation or role models, it's difficult to dream about something that you haven't never seen, no? You haven't heard, or you don't know even that exists, no? And I think for me, redefine the possible is that I think that we have to challenge the status quo of the things that are not fair. And inequality is not fair. We need to have the same opportunities for everyone. It doesn't matter where you come from, what is the color of your skin, or what are you believe. I don't care. You have to have the same opportunities, no? And especially, I think in a sector like STEM that is focused on your talent, no, in your knowledge, I think that is possible. I always say the same. If you are a lawyer or you are, I don't know, a writer or a journalist, it's not, you can do that in different countries, but when you move countries, like a lot of us, we move, no? And it's different. But if you are an engineer, or you are a mathematician, or you are a doctor, you're going to can apply this knowledge to every, you can success, no? I think that's the transfer is more, let's say more give you more opportunities, no? And I think we have to work for that.
Now I know what to do. We just need to dare you for something, right? So for me, redefine what is possible comes in different aspects. I'll answer this in different ways. First of all, we're obviously in tech, science. It's about innovation. It's about, changing our lives with, inventions, etc. But at the end of the day, we just can never give up, right? So it's not the first time you present an idea, you get a no. It doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Sometimes you have to go back to the drawing board, increase maybe certain aspects about the project, present it again, and so on and so forth. But with persistence, we get to a point where the project can become more mature or viable. And it's a little bit the same thing with women in tech. In a way. Yes, it's true that women are a minority in tech. However, it's not a reason to not go after our goals, our objectives. It's not a reason that we cannot innovate and that we cannot push forward. But it does take persistence. And sometimes we do have to go back to the drawing board and say, oh, do I need to increase my skills? Do I need to get more experience? Or do I simply need to try again? So basically, my message to redefine what is possible would be just to always, always go for your dreams, go for your goals, and never give up. And I think we stand on the shoulders of women before us, and the future generations are going to stand on our shoulders. So at the end of the day, it's up to us to make a difference.
Okay, so I know that the next question, it's a hot one. Not this, but this one. So, diversity, equity, and inclusion policies are necessary, and if so, why? Should I start again? Oh, well, okay. So I think that there are many, many reasons why these kind of policies are important. I will just probably mention one, since I almost lived, I experienced this. Sometimes without these policies, so first of all, as I was telling this morning, sometimes we see many companies that they have these policies, but then it's like a checklist. It's like, okay, we did it, great. So they have all their catalogs of month of something, and that's it. But then we don't have anything else. So it's a start. I will say these kind of policies are a beginning of something. For sure, we need to make sure that then we have something concrete. We want people to feel really welcoming and at the same time staying in a way that they feel safe. The reason why I think they are extremely important is because even if there is more discussion about those, there are a lot of people that really don't know that there are minorities that are suffering in the workplace, out there, and so on. So probably those policies are a big starting point to start discussion, but especially if I think about the workplace, just to have the occasion to say, hey, maybe I can go to my colleague and just say, how are you feeling about that? For example, I don't know, do you need something that I'm not thinking about because I'm not concerned really in first person, but how can I support you? And some people again, I don't think they are bad people. They don't have this train of thoughts. So that's why policies in this case are helpful. And again, it's just a starting point.
Yeah, so I think they're important because when you think of a certain role, let's say a leadership role or a creative role or whatever that role is, you have a certain image of it in mind, right? And that image was created over years of certain people embodying that role. So you think of a leader that's maybe, I don't know, aggressive, assertive, they lead with confidence, maybe not with community first, maybe not with a lot of empathy. I think it's important to have systems in place where we can change those images over time by bringing other people into those positions and showing that there's a different way of doing things, that you can do it your own way. You can be a woman leader and not act like a male leader, right? You can define the role for yourself. And I think if those systems don't exist, then we kind of have the tendency of playing out those roles continuously. There's no incentive to move past them, and especially for people who benefit from them, right?
And I think that would be also positive for men. They don't need to be aggressive all the time to be a leader. It's a sort of, hey, you know what, there are different type of people. It's okay.
That's true, that might even be better, actually.
Yeah, I think it's like you say, but it's especially about inclusivity, right? It's to be able to, to have a working culture that makes sure that everybody feels included, and often you may not get invited, right? We have a feeling there's a little bit of a boys club and you won't necessarily get the invitation. So I think that it's very important for companies to have a culture where they can make sure that everybody feels included, and that's the starting point. But when it comes to, positions and hiring, at the end of the day, it's up to the decision makers. And it's really important that, obviously, we can't directly influence the decision makers from one day to the next. I think change is and progress is slow. But I think the more brilliant women in tech go out there and, do a great job and perform and take leadership roles, the more this dynamic is going to change, the more people are going to be open-minded to different style of roles. So again, my message is simply, we just have to go for it, right? We have to go for it. Sometimes it's not easy, but the more this happens, the more things will change. That's what I think.
Okay, so again, speaking on behalf of mi gente. So for Latinx professionals, it's really more than just fairness. It's about visibility and representation and breaking systemic barriers. And there's a few specific that I want to go through. I actually wrote them down. So we know that Latinx professionals are underrepresented in the tech sector. So without these initiatives, if you don't fit that traditional mold of what talent in the tech industry looks like, then you're likely being overlooked. The other one is that studies have shown time and again that your name, your accent, and your cultural background impact hiring decisions regardless of your skill set, which means that without DEI programs that are merit-based, then you are simply missing out on Latinx tech talent. We also know that many opportunities come from who we know. And by the nature of us immigrating to this country, it means that we've historically lacked access to that network that you build since you're in high school from a lot of the colleagues that I work with. And so DEI programs help create those mentorship moments, sponsorship moments that can help you level that playing field. And then, of course, we know that companies who have a diverse talent are more creative and outperform companies that don't. So it is really a benefit to the entire industry. And yeah, in an ideal world, hard work should be enough, but we know that that's not the world that we live in because bias exists, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And so there's a very important role that DEI plays in helping leveling out the playing field. I also want to talk about that there has been additional research that shows that applicants with non-Anglo names do receive fewer callbacks, even with the exact same qualifications. Again, that means that if there are no DEI policies in place, Latinx candidates will simply never receive that fair shot. And I would argue that that's the same, not just for Latinx, but any immigrant minority. So it's not about hiring someone because they are fill in the blank, let's say in my case, Latinx. It's about making the skills that that individual brings visible and making sure that they're seen just like everybody else.
Beautifully said. And I agree with a lot of what you mentioned. I think, you know, the point you brought up about diversity, companies that have diversity outperforming others, I think for a lot of us who are interested in AI or tech, we talk a lot about data and data having to be representative of what we're building for. So I think the same can be said for companies for sure. And I also think the reason the policies and having some formality around this is really important is because, as with anything in business, right, like if it is an important priority to them, they will put these policies in place, right? And so if your companies maybe are not as keen to do so, I would, you know, push back and challenge why we are not formalizing these processes like we would when a customer wants a new feature, for example, or when leadership deems another priority, something that needs to be worked on in the next quarter. So I think it's really a way for companies to show that they are walking the walk and not just talking the talk. And I think the question could have been like, why are these policies not necessary? Because there's just too many reasons that we need to keep them in place, from bringing talent into the pipeline. And then there's a whole nother thing to be said about keeping people in positions of either highly technical positions, leadership positions, and making sure that their careers are fruitful in that way. So yeah, that's my take.
I'm just gonna give you guys an image. So I work for Radio-Canada, we're the news. If we mostly hired a bunch of white dudes who love sports, politics, and hockey, maybe finance, let's throw some finance in there, what would your news look like every day? EDI is not just necessary for fairness, though it's super important, it's also for representation and also for what comes out of your company, what comes out of your product. Radio-Canada, CBC has a policy where we want to represent Canada within the office. And they're close to achieving that. Not close enough to my liking, but statistically speaking, it's really good. I unfortunately don't have the numbers with me, but it really does have an impact on what comes out in the news every day. Because if you don't have a representation, a proportional representation of your communities, then you don't have a proportional representation of the news. And then you look at tech, and that's one of the underrepresented sectors, obviously, because it just is what it is, unfortunately, still today. But they keep pushing, and it's important. I was an EDI hire. I got in through an internship for hard of hearing people. I saw the internship go by from January, and I applied in March. So I saw this for 3 months, and I kept thinking, geez, maybe I'm just not hard of hearing enough. When I finally applied and I asked, I said, I don't know if I would qualify for this. I'm not deaf from birth, this is from trauma. And she says, we've had several hundred applicants apply for this internship over several months, and you're the first hard of hearing person to actually apply. And that's terrifying, because even in the hard of hearing community, like, it is hard to get a job. It's hard to fit into the office. I think of just my meetings every day on Google Meets, I'm reading closed captioning, and we're using Quebec French with French, and a lot of technical speak. It is what it is, but it makes it hard for people with disabilities or with hearing disabilities to even just figure out how to fit into the office. And so if these measures don't exist, people will leave their jobs, or they're going to be fired for not having the talent or not really catching up to what they're supposed to, because they don't have the tools to do so. And so EDI is as much for diversity as it is for disabilities, as it is for so many other things. I'm thinking of someone who was hired that was much older and probably wouldn't have gotten a fair shot in any other company. But because we represent Canada in the offices, well, we got to look at proportionality as well. So yeah, no, EDI is super important because it affects every aspect of everything you do, the media you consume to the job you do.
When we were preparing this panel, we talk about that, and having quotes, like, okay, percentage, on the representation on the boards, is not something that you are like really, let's say, proud of being there because you have a quote. You want to be valued for your talent, but as we all talk is, you are not going to have the chance if we don't have this kind of policies, no? It's like having, I don't know, don't having rules in the sports or don't having referees in the hockey game. It will be a chaos, no? We need, like, I think the day policies is based on the values of the society that you are living, no? I think there is a concept that it has been, like, said, but not like the name, is like the privilege of the invisibility. It's someone that cannot see what barriers are you facing for having being from a different background or being from another minority. It's not that they are bad people. It's like we have all unconscious bias, and if nobody decode that, you're not gonna see it. And I think for me, for example, I'm from Barcelona, from Spain. I moved here 4 years ago, and I realized a lot of things that I give myself, like, this is like this, life is like this. It's not. When you move to another country and you see a diverse and a different way of doing things, I have to relearn, again, a lot of things that I thought I already knew, and it was going to be like this everywhere, all the time, It's not. I think having these policies is also about empathy. Like, okay, I want to be in your shoes. I want to know how you feel, and I'm gonna try to be comfortable in this area. And I think especially for women, we need this safety space to be comfortable, and to highlight our talents, and to be, that you're not going to be questioned, because sometimes, as Stefania said, we are raised sometimes, girls especially, to be perfect, not to be brave. I think it's important to be raised, all the generations, to be brave. Doesn't matter if you fail. You're gonna, and don't give up. It's like keep trying. You will arrive there. I think it's also something about to be fair, and the society that we want to. It's so scary when you see what is happening now, and have a society that doesn't care about diversity policies. Is this what we want? It's something that we have to question ourselves.
I'd like to just piggyback on something that was said, but I think also, women in tech, women in AI or gaming, it's not just representation or diversity in a company, in a workspace, yes, but it's diversity in the science also. Because as we were talking about earlier, I'm sure no man has ever tried the breast cancer test machine, right? Probably if anybody's ever done it, it's very uncomfortable. So probably they never tested it. So it's really like a crude example, but at the end of the day, all the innovations and everything that we're gonna put out as a society also needs to take into account this diversity, needs to also be built or made for women of different groups and different characteristics. And so to broaden this, it's really important to have, you know, women join these fields and succeed. It's for not just a future workspace, but it's also for the future of the science we are going to benefit from. So.
I just wanted to quickly point out, because I've been hearing it a lot right now, and how ironic is it that we talk about diversity for a group of people that makes up half the population of the world, right? And I'm sorry, I mean, if you talk about diversity, you can talk about specific groups within the female larger group, right? Because just having women at work, it shouldn't be considered diverse, should it? No, it shouldn't be that hard. It's true.
It's simply that traditionally engineering, science, math, programming has been more, you know, dominantly with men. And it's for sure that if you're women in tech and you look around, you often, you know, you're outnumbered. And so, you know, I think these communities that we have are really important so that, you know, a lot of women can connect, can network, can learn, and at the end of the day, we're all facing similar challenges. So if we can exchange as peers, exchange our experiences and learn from it, we help each other grow. And I think that's really important. But it's true that half the society is maybe women, but maybe not everybody's studying these fields. However, this is changing. Obviously, if you check the classrooms today, news for you, I think that trend's already changing, so.
I want to talk about momentarily about code switch. I don't know if many people know what that refers to. For example, I have to make a very intentional code switch when I'm communicating in Spanish or when I'm communicating in English, or there's specific behaviors that are more normalized or accepted between my community and that would be looked down or criticized here in North America with my white counterparts. And so we've talked a lot about policies around like interview practices, hiring practices, etc. One of my favorite DEI programs, though, are those ERG groups where we can come together, a group of similar individuals, and have that, what I call it, a point of release, a point of relief, where we are speaking our language, where we are able to communicate and leave that code switch behind, and a lot of my colleagues who are North American, they're like, but what do you do all day there? Is it just like a moment to complain? I said, absolutely not. On the contrary, it allows us to come, discuss what we're seeing happen, give each other that little boost of confidence, maybe help wipe a few tears off our faces, because that has happened, and then go back and do an amazing job. So ERG groups is one of the most powerful DEI policies that can exist, and we've seen them disappear with everything that's happening in the United States, and companies are adopting those same things here in Canada, unfortunately, but it doesn't mean that because there isn't a officially established ERG group that you can't build one yourself in your workplace. ERG stands for an employee resource group. So it can be really, I've seen an employee resource group based on your cultural heritage, or I've seen other groups like mothers. I've seen some for like dog parents.
Which one for cats?
Create one, let's go.
I can create, it's no problem. Yeah, and I want just to say one thing. You inspired me for that. I mean, we know that there are things that are happening right now, but just remember, in any case, we got the power. Like we, as individuals, all together, no matter what is happening out there. So just remember that. Okay, now let's go. Before going to because I know we are. Okay, we have 15 minutes. So before I think there is a fourth question. Is there anyone that wants to ask a question? No? Yes? Yes, over there. Can you go? The microphone is there.
Hello. Okay. Thank you guys so much, or women, for being here. It's really appreciated. So I'm 2 years after having graduated, and something I sadly realized even when I was in university, and thankfully in my company I don't experience as much, but I still hear about it, that it's a problem for women. It's kind of hard to assert yourself, especially as a developer surrounded by often I'm the only woman in the team. So my question is, how do you assert yourselves? And have you had to kind of change yourself, like your personality, to kind of seem more dominant when you're faced with like being the only woman? Yeah, so that's my question.
I can also. That's great. So I will reply. I will say that I almost always have been in this situation where I was the only one doing the tech part or programming or so on. So first of all, now you don't need to change yourself. Never. Okay? Be yourself, please. Especially if it is work-related, you don't want to fake for 8 hours. I mean. But there is one thing that for sure I will suggest, trying to understand how the other think, how the other observe their reality. Is there a way where you can be also inspired by what they do and how they process everything? Because you can learn a lot. You can discover at some point that what it might be frustrating because you think that there is a barrier is on their side is more, I'm afraid to talk because I don't know how to approach you. So they will be more than happy to have a conversation. I worked for several years for a company where I had a team, only men, and at some point I was like, so you are going every Thursday to have a beer and I'm not there. Like, why? They were like, you want to join us? I was like, yeah, I'm a human. I mean, I can, yes. Yeah, why not? I can talk with you and have a beer, why not? So, yeah, I know that might be frustrating. Sometimes it might be also, we have a sort of negative lenses because we see it's challenging. Sometimes we also need to have a step back and think about, okay, let's analyze the situation. Is there a way we can enter that world and see? It might work, it might not work. If it doesn't work, who cares? I mean, you are more important than anything else. So you need to stay well in your shoes. Don't need to change.
Thank you so much for that answer.
Just to add on to that, I love your question because I thought about this a lot at the beginning of my career, being a developer as well, and holding different types of roles too, like not just technical. So I think what I've tried to do is actively keep who I am. So whether that means like continuing to dress up to the office or suggesting activities that might be something that you would enjoy to do with your team, for example. But I think the way we assert ourselves will naturally be different, maybe compared to how men do it. And something honestly that helped me that I still do to this day is I will over-prepare just a little bit before meetings, before one-to-ones or before group meetings, and get clear on like, what do I want to bring to this? And that way it's not about feeling like I can't speak up or feeling like people are talking over me. Like I will know what I want to say going into a meeting internally or externally. And I try to stick to that. And I think just getting clear and having some kind of system for yourselves takes the emotion out of it and allows you to, show up as you are with, your bubbly personality. Like there's so many traits that all of us might hold that don't necessarily correspond to a developer or some, X role. But I think try your best to stay as true to yourself as you can and just put small systems in place to basically achieve what it is that you want.
Thank you so much.
So I agree with what they said. My experience was I had to, I don't want to say change, but I had to be very aware of behaviors that I had to immediately start and immediately stop. And I kept noticing time and again how my passive way of being, my humble way of being, my gracious way of being was not allowing my voice to be heard at the table. And it became very evident when I stepped into the role that I am now. I sat around the table with VPs. I'm not a VP, but I report to the CPO, and so therefore I'm always at the table with VPs and C-suites. And I just literally, I would say one thing, I would say something, and then somebody would say with a higher title. It didn't even have to do with the fact of like, I'm a minority. No, it could have been somebody else with the higher title, and I just wouldn't be heard. And so I had to make tweaks with how I communicate so that I'm literally physically heard, that I was using specific words. So learning, reskilling, upskilling. Ask your team members, like, what words am I using that I could adopt, or that I'm not using that I should adopt? But I do believe you have to be really, really aware of how those around you are communicating and being heard. So, and I actually gave the senior manager of product design was promoted this week to director, and I sat him down, and he's a very white male, and I said, this is what you need to know entering the director world. Because again, it doesn't necessarily apply that I'm a woman or I'm Latina, it's just entering a leadership world.
Gracias. As a fellow Latina.
No, I would like to advise you that you need to find allies in the company, sponsors, people that heard you, and you have to prepare to be in this male-dominant world or department or meetings, you know, and you will find that there are males that can be your sponsor, and also females, because sometimes we are now in a generation, I think, when you have like, let's say a little of security, no, or let's say, I don't know, enough experience that now we are popping up. No, we are now here, but maybe when we were younger, maybe we will not be. We will be shy to be here, no? And I think you need that too, you know? There are females that are gonna be also saying something that maybe you are gonna say something in a meeting of a male, an ally, that he can reinforce what you are saying to be heard, you know? I think this is important because it can help you a lot. And also, yeah, I agree. Maybe you always have to know who you are, your essence, but sometimes, yes, it's interesting to say, okay, I'm gonna look, you know, and learn and adapt yourself, because you need to adapt, because you have to change too in the way, not to change your essence, but to adapt to the new company or the new environment, or, you know, that's really important. But if you have a really a relationship that you can trust, you know, at work, I think they can advise you well, you know, and I think this is really important, especially for the young generations.
Very good advice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think that's all amazing advice. But, you know, I'd have to say for me, I've always been a very outspoken kind of person. So I can't say that I necessarily changed. But I think that's, and I wouldn't say to change. Obviously, know your truth, like everybody said, is really important. But be part of the conversation. Because everything is a dialogue. It's a conversation. And keep the dialogue going. You know, bring your ideas and know your facts. You know your arguments, why you think something is a better idea. And sometimes if somebody doesn't necessarily buy into your idea right away, doesn't mean they're not eventually going to buy into your idea. We have to understand that we're all people and our minds can change, and we have to ask questions. Why, you know, like, why don't you think this is a good idea? Okay, maybe this is a little direct, but, you know, then you understand, okay, maybe there's, you know, elements missing. Maybe I can give you more arguments that you didn't see, and keep that dialogue going. If you want to bring your points forward, that's really, really important.
Thank you for that.
It's a curiosity quest.
Sorry?
It's a curiosity quest.
Exactly, because sometimes the person, you know, when we communicate something, we don't always know how the person captures it. And trying to understand the person you're talking to and how they're understanding you is a challenge. But it's the starting point to getting to a common understanding about a problem. And especially, you know, in the fields we're in, sometimes it takes talking about something for many, many, many conversations before we find a solution. So.
Okay. Is there a question there? Thank you. Any other question? Yes.
question here. Oh, you're gonna ask the question.
Ladies first.
Okay. Hi. My question is primarily for Eva Diaz, just because you said you're from Barcelona, and that's why I'm curious how different is tech space in Spain and here from the point of bureaucracy, laws, and women, of course.
I think the main difference is everything is regulated there. We already have laws that we have to have this percentage in the companies, you know. We are not allowed to have different pays for men and women, you know, the same position. I discovered with this project, we are now in 8 different countries, that what I told you at the beginning, no, that everywhere is going to be more like this is not, okay? For example, Italy, we had an inquiry that says that 40% of the families thinks that STEM are not for girls. What? You know? 40% is a lot of things that we have to face. Also, it depends always, you know, and on the politicians or the parties that are on the government, that's something. But I think something that we have learned, especially in Spain, for example, is to fight for our rights. We came for a dictatorship for 40 years, you know, and then everything was like fight for gaining rights, no? I always say that equity is not like a cake, no, that you say more for me, less for you. No. More for me, more for everyone, you know? And I think this is important because for after us, no, fighting for something or gaining some rights, a lot other minorities can come after us and gain their recognition or their representation. I think this is the main thing. I think there is more regulated, but I don't know. It's what we talk in the preparation. Quotes or a percentage or laws maybe are needed at the beginning of something when you have to change the mindset of all the society, no? Because you want to encourage that. But after a while, it's supposed the society is advancing and we don't want to think that laws are necessary anymore, no? But for now, they are working and they are changing that because we are increasing the numbers there.
So I know that we have a couple of minutes, 2 minutes. Yeah, okay. Let's go with the question.
2 minutes. I will try to make it very short. How can we get more feminine energy being recognized as an asset and not a weakness in a competitive space? And second is how can we bring more allies or how can we nurture allies? And I have examples of like what I did with the startup that I co-founded a long time ago called C22 and the Elan Tech organization. And it was a strong, difficult decisions that paid off long term. But like it takes like 3-4 years to actually see the real result that has business. So those 2 questions are questions that I really have in mind kind of like, not every day, but every couple of days.
Oh, well, okay. Who wants to reply?
That's a really good question, and I think I'm going to cycle back to what someone said earlier, ERGs. Have those affinity groups right there within the business. This is what we have at CBC Radio-Canada. We have them across a wide spectrum, and by having those resource groups, the information is shared, mentorships are encouraged, programs are built from these affinity groups, and that's how you're able to really get that energy and really use it as an asset. But if you keep everyone separate and you don't give them that opportunity to talk to each other on the company dime, like don't make this an after work thing, because if it's after work, people have homes to go to, there's kids to take care of, there are things that need to be done. At lunch, it's time for lunch. You need to be able to sit and relax and disconnect from the work you're doing. Make it a priority within the workspace in working hours to really give the employees a chance to talk to each other, to build those relationships, and that's how you grow from that.
I'll answer very briefly. So sponsorship is super, super important and has been pivotal in my career. Yes, mentors, but really sponsorship is the way to go to help even normalize, I guess, feminine energy. I took my sponsor, he didn't know he was my sponsor, and I told him why he was my sponsor, and I explained to him why his actions, without even knowing he was just properly raised by a very strong woman, he's like, oh, that's what that's called. He's like, it's normal. He's like, but not for most men. And so explaining to him why his actions were so important and meaningful to me, it made him realize it, and then he started being sponsors for other women. And again, he made it just more normal in the boardroom for that feminine energy, whatever it means to whomever. So sponsorships, explain to them why their allyship is so important.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know what to say because I'm so happy that we had this conversation, and I'm so happy that I was able to have all these wonderful ladies with me. So, of course, they will be around if you want to ask more questions. It's a great opportunity. So thank you again, and I think the next we'll have a panel, right? Women in career. So let's stay tuned. Like and subscribe. Thank you all.